October 21st, 1978. A small aircraft flies south through the Australian night. Below it, the dark waters of the Bass Strait. Inside the cockpit sits a 20-year-old pilot named Frederick Valentich. The flight should be ordinary, routine, forgettable. But within minutes, Frederick Valentich will make a radio call that still unsettles Australia nearly half a century later. He will report something following his aircraft, something he cannot identify. Melbourne Air Traffic Control will search their systems. There should be nothing there. And then Valentich will say 4 words that transformed a routine flight into one of Australia's strangest aviation mysteries. It is not an aircraft.
Control, this is Delta 412. We have multiple unidentified contacts on radar.
Moments later, the transmission ends. The plane disappears. No confirmed crash site. No recovered body. No final explanation. Only questions. And a mystery that refuses to leave the Australian sky. To understand what happened that night, you first have to understand the pilot. Frederick Valentich was young, ambitious, determined to build a future in aviation. Flying wasn't simply a hobby, it was the career he wanted. The identity he was chasing, but his training record was complicated. He wasn't an elite veteran pilot. Reports showed failed licensing exams. There were concerns around judgment, experience, operational decision-making. That detail matters, not because it proves anything, but because every mystery eventually turns back toward the person at its center. And investigators would later examine Frederick Valentich's background from every possible angle. There was another detail that attracted attention. Valentich reportedly held an interest in UFOs. That fact alone proves absolutely nothing. Lots of people are curious about unexplained things, but after what unfolded over the Bass Strait, people would revisit that detail again and again and again. On the evening of October 21st, Valentich departed from Moorabbin Airport near Melbourne. His destination was King Island. Not an impossible journey, not an extraordinary route, but the geography south of Australia carries its own personality. Dark ocean, sparse lights, long stretches of emptiness. Night flying over water can become deceptively difficult. The horizon weakens. Depth perception changes. Orientation becomes unreliable. Small errors can quietly grow into dangerous ones. At approximately 7:06 p.m, Frederick Valentich contacted Melbourne Air Traffic Control. The opening exchange sounded routine, professional, measured, nothing dramatic. Melbourne, this is Delta Sierra Juliet. Is there any known traffic below 5,000? The controller checked. The answer was immediate. No known aircraft. Simple, straightforward. Normally, that would end the conversation, but Valentich continued, because he could see something. Seems to be a large aircraft below 5,000. The controller requested clarification. What kind of aircraft? What position? But the description that followed became increasingly difficult to place inside normal aviation language. Valentich reported an object with bright lights. He described movement that didn't make immediate sense. At one point, the object appeared to pass above him, then return, then circle. His voice did not sound theatrical, not panicked, not sensational. It sounded like somebody trying to solve a problem in real time, trying to understand what his own eyes were showing him. The controller repeated the official information. There was no known traffic in the area, nothing registered, nothing expected. But Valentich remained focused on what he believed he could see. Then came one of the most discussed lines in Australian mystery history. It seems to be playing some sort of game. That sentence feels disturbingly human, because it doesn't sound like a movie script. It sounds confused, uncertain, like a pilot struggling to explain behavior that refuses to fit familiar rules. The controller continued asking practical questions: altitude, direction, aircraft description, trying to anchor uncertainty to measurable facts. But clarity never arrived. Instead, the mystery deepened. Valentich described a metallic appearance. He noticed what appeared to be a green light. He believed the object was approaching again, then moving away, then repositioning, and then the sentence that still drives debate nearly 50 years later. It is not an aircraft. Four words. Simple, unsettling, open to endless interpretation. What exactly did he mean? Did he mean the object's movement failed to resemble conventional aviation? Was he becoming spatially disoriented over dark water? Was he seeing reflections, misidentifying celestial objects? Or was he describing something he genuinely believed did not belong in the sky around him? Nobody knows, because moments later, the transmission changes. The final recorded audio does not contain a clean explanation. No detailed emergency call, no confirmed mechanical report, only an unexplained sound. Metallic, rough, abrupt, then silence. Frederick Valentich and his aircraft vanished into the Australian night. When the transmission ended, the search began. But almost immediately, investigators ran into a problem. There wasn't much to search. No confirmed distress location, no eyewitness crash report, no obvious debris field, only a final radio exchange and a stretch of dark ocean south of Australia. Search crews began combing the Bass Strait. Aircraft scanned from above. Marine searches followed. Investigators worked with the limited information available. But the ocean does not make mysteries easy, especially at night, especially over open water. Days passed, then more days. Still, no confirmed aircraft, no recovered pilot, no definitive answer. The disappearance of Frederick Valentich was quickly transforming from an aviation incident into a national mystery. And when mysteries refuse to provide evidence, theories inevitably move in to fill the silence. The first explanation was grounded, uncomfortable, but plausible. Pilot disorientation. To many aviation experts, this remains one of the strongest explanations. Night flying over water can be deceptively dangerous. Without a clear horizon, spatial awareness can begin to collapse. Pilots can misjudge angles, movement, distance, even their own aircraft orientation. Small visual mistakes can escalate rapidly. Investigators considered whether Valentich may have become disoriented over the Bass Strait. Perhaps he believed he was observing another aircraft, when he was actually misinterpreting environmental conditions. Some researchers proposed celestial explanations, bright stars, planetary lights, optical misidentification. Others pointed toward the possibility of reflections, unusual lighting conditions, visual confusion amplified by isolation and darkness. It is not a dramatic theory. It doesn't satisfy people searching for something extraordinary. But aviation history is filled with accidents built from ordinary human limitations meeting difficult conditions. Then there was another possibility, mechanical failure. Some investigators questioned whether Valentich may have experienced engine trouble. In the transcript, there are moments that some interpret as signs of aircraft instability. Was the mysterious object actually a misunderstanding of his own aircraft's behavior? Could he have been interpreting mechanical problems through confusion and deteriorating situational awareness? Some analysts later suggested that certain maneuvers described during the radio exchange might align with an aircraft caught in spatial disorientation. If that scenario is correct, the final mystery may not have been about something outside the cockpit. It may have been happening inside it. And then There is the theory most people already know, the explanation that pushed the story beyond aviation circles and into popular culture, the UFO theory. Because when a young pilot reports an unknown object, describes strange movement, mentions unusual lights, says it is not an aircraft, and then disappears, people notice, media attention grew, public fascination followed. For UFO researchers, the case seemed impossible to ignore. Some believed Valentich encountered something genuinely unexplained, something unconventional, something not accounted for by traditional aviation analysis. His personal interest in UFOs became part of the discussion. Supporters of the theory argued that his description sounded unusually specific. The movement, the positioning, the apparent behavior of the object. To them, the transcript did not resemble simple imagination, but critics pushed back hard, because extraordinary claims demand extraordinary evidence, and in this case, the evidence remained painfully limited. No confirmed radar anomaly, no recovered physical proof, no independently verified unknown craft, only a missing pilot, a dark sky, an unusual radio exchange, and decades of interpretation layered onto a mystery that never fully explained itself. Years passed, the case remained unresolved. Theories multiplied, documentaries revisited the disappearance, debates continued, and like many enduring mysteries, the Frederick Valentich case slowly evolved into something larger than the original event itself. Aviation puzzle, UFO story, psychological case study, Australian folklore. Maybe the explanation is grounded. A young pilot, night flying, spatial disorientation, dark water, an unforgiving environment south of Australia. That possibility remains entirely believable. Or maybe Frederick Valentich genuinely encountered something he could not identify, something that still resists explanation. What we know for certain is surprisingly small. A 20-year-old pilot departed into the Australian evening. He radioed Melbourne Air Traffic Control. He reported an unknown presence near his aircraft. He said, "It is not an aircraft." Then the transmission stopped, and neither Frederick Valentich nor his aircraft were conclusively recovered. The Bass Strait kept its silence, and nearly half a century later, Australia is still listening for answers in a conversation that ended too soon. What theory do you believe? Disorientation? Mechanical failure? Something unexplained in the sky? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks for watching Aussie Archive. Remember, the true stories are always hidden just beneath the surface. Subscribe for new stories every week.